It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Coming at you from downtown Waco, Texas, high atop the rest of the city, the 21st floor of the Alico building. It is the Pete Sousa Show, sponsored by Slovacics and, of course, our good friends at Crawford Austin Properties. Got to take a drive up also to see the folks at Socorro Family Ford soon. If you're in the market for a car like Cam is, you should get in touch with the folks at Socorro Family Ford. A lot to talk about today. Cannot wait to talk about exactly what is going on this weekend with our bets segment. That's Corey Dickman, All In Bets. Corey and I used to do something that had the best name ever, Benjamin Bets, over at KWTX, and we've kept it going over here, and it's bigger and better, and it even includes activity like him taking trips to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and coming in live with us. Of course, we'll talk to Cam Stewart in our final segment, and Mike's waving. What's going on, Mike? Everything's fine, right? So what? He's creating a diversion early on. We're on the air here. So when you're waving your hands, just that could be a distraction for me.
I'm looking over here, and all I'm seeing is the road, the black road. You're not in the right. I'm not in the right room. It's me, Pete, not you.
So, Mike, yeah, you're not in the right room. You should be in your goddamn office. By the way, we learned just moments ago that Zach may have a baby on Halloween, which is super exciting, which you can't hear right now, but the theme song is going out to the millions and millions of Zach fans that are listening to this. Think about that, Zach. Like, for like a WWE perspective, this could be awesome, dude. Like a Halloween baby. This is now a character, right? And we could call the Zachary would be the name of the baby. We're having a boy, right? Okay. All right. That's a.
Wait, his name's gonna be my name?
I don't know. I think there was like a Halloween or some kind of horror character named Zachary back in the day.
Jacob, but we're gonna call him Jack.
Oh, really?
So Jack, I mean, there's already like
Jack Straw from Wichita.
Jack Skellington, Jack-o'-lantern. There's a bunch of Halloween puns there already. So
Jack-o'-lantern is great, dude. But we're gonna keep all his teeth. How about that? The Phillies, by the way, getting ready for the postseason, getting ready to play the New York Mets. And I got to tell you, I am not excited about this matchup. By the way, we got a Menendez brothers update that's coming shortly. But the Phillies playing against the Mets is very scary because the Mets are red hot. And there's three things about the Mets right now that aren't even on the field that worry me. One, ever since Grimace, the McDonald's Grimace, threw out the first pitch for the Mets, they have been white hot as they've approached the postseason. Number two, there is an OMG phenomenon going on around the Mets organization. They have a Latino pop star on the roster, which I didn't know until this morning. I'm trying to figure out why the Mets have such mojo. And there are reasons like this. They have a Latino pop star on their team, a guy named Jose Iglesias, who came up when the Mets were playing terrible. I'll tell you right here. I have the numbers right here. So this guy was called up to the Mets organization on May 31st. And the Mets were 24-33 at the time. Okay. This guy, Iglesias, by the way, is a 34-year-old infielder. So he signs a minor league deal with the Mets and then gets called up to the big league team, right? This guy's on the team and they start winning games, like winning a lot of games. Now it was June 22nd and the Mets were one of the hottest teams. Iglesias, we're now going through a timeline, playing well, getting closer to releasing his song under his moniker, Candelita. Now, as it turned out, he also, like I said, is a Latin pop star. He performed the song, his latest single, OMG, at Citi Field. All of his teammates joined him. This is on June 28th. The Mets are 49-33 since that performance. So a sign was made, an OMG sign was made and actually sent to Steve Cohen, who owns the team. It was sent to his wife. His wife got the sign down to the Mets, and you see this OMG sign now when the Mets are performing well and when they're celebrating. Iglesias, by the way, is on a 20-game hit streak right now, and he's planning to release a remix soon with maybe even Bad Bunny. Okay? This is what we call mojo, dude. The song has over 4 million YouTube views and debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts for Latin digital song sales. Okay. Now, the reason I bring all this up is because I'm a Phillies fan and I'm terrified. Oh, by the way, let's throw in one more thing, which you know I love. Hawk Tua. Now, she threw out a first pitch for the Mets in August, okay? They lost like the first 2 games afterwards, but of course, they went on this roll that we've talked about, and now Hawk Tua is capitalizing and having fun with the fact that, you know, the Mets were, a lot of people were like, Mike Francesa went on a great rant on his podcast about why in the world would the Mets have Hawk Tua throwing out a first pitch at their baseball game. Well, the reason was she was there aligned with dogs that they were giving to veterans to help them with PTSD. So she was there for a good reason. Yeah, I don't know either, Mike, but that's why she was there. She's tried to align herself, or has aligned herself, with these efforts with these dogs, and it's all good stuff, right? I think the girl is like, she's doing the best she can to remain in the public eye, but she's done it in sort of like, I don't know, I guess humble might be the wrong word, but maybe a relatable way. And she's pretty funny. You know, she's calling it Octua, October. You know, Octua is here, and the Mets are playing great. So the Mets win yesterday, right? And this is another thing that terrifies me, okay? The Mets win. They're down 2-0. Pete Alonso hits a home run in the 9th inning, puts his team up 3-2. They eventually win 4-2, which on the road in Milwaukee, they beat the Brewers. The Brewers fans were literally planning like, oh my gosh, like we're going to play the Phillies. The series is going to start Saturday, blah, 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 blah. Alonso hits his home run. And it was his Mike Vaccaro, the writer for the New York Post, who was a brilliant writer, was calling it his forever Mets moment. And Pete Alonso's had a nice career with the Mets so far. And they're calling him the Miracle Mets, you know, on the cover of all the New York tabloids. And now, here, I want to read you. This, by the way, is why, and people give me a hard time for this, but you want to talk about, like, there's a magic when these New York teams start to play well, and it gets a little scary if you're a Phillies fan, because I want the Phillies to crush the Mets. But I'm reading Mike Vaccaro's column this morning, right, about Pete Alonso, and this was just a line. To me, this is like journalism magic, right? With one forever, here it is, by the way. This is the quote from the paper. This is pulled from the article. With one forever swing of his bat, Alonso had turned 0-2 down into 3-2 up. He had somehow warded off the winter and guaranteed at least 5 more days of summer. He'd gone all Roy Hobbs. Let me start over again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He'd gone all Roy Hobbs is what he did. Even if he spared the light towers, you could almost hear the music. So now he's comparing Pete Alonso to the movie The Natural. A little extreme, maybe, but maybe not, right? The magic is there, and everybody is on board right now for this team and their story. You've got Grimace, you've got a Latin pop star, you've got Hawk Tua, and you've got magical writing and stories like this being put out there. The Mets are feeling very good going into their series against my Phillies. It's a scary team to play. Fortunately for the Phils, it all gets played on the field. They're the better team, but man, there is something to be said for that momentum, that mojo that the Mets have on their side right now. They believe in themselves. They have no reason not to. We mentioned they've been red hot pretty much since the beginning of June. Scary team to play right now. I'm not looking forward to it at all. So that's our baseball take as we get into the weekend here, as we start to move into it. I also wanted to talk about the Menendez bros. So people are excited today, these supporters of the Menendez brothers, because I'm going to break it down for you what's going on with these guys. So everybody's super excited because the Menendez brothers, there was a Peacock documentary, and it was one of the Menudo guys is starting to speak out about the sexual abuse at the hands of the Menudo, the manager of the band. This is Menudo, very successful, popular band out of Puerto Rico in the 80s. And so their manager apparently sexually abused these kids. And Jose Menendez, he's the father of the Menendez brothers. He was the head of RCA Records at the time, actually brokered the deal with Menudo and was very involved with Menudo. He has been accused, according to this Peacock documentary, and one of the members of Menudo, who escapes me right now, for sexually abusing the kids in Menudo. Okay, now this is all brand new evidence that has been brought to light. So the district attorney for Los Angeles, by the way, his name's George Gascon. His dad was the police officer that we all are familiar with when we see his face. He was the former head of police in Los Angeles, not the commissioner, but he was, I guess he was their mouthpiece, and he was a guy that was, part of the front office of the police department. And he's the one that says, we were expecting Mr. Simpson to turn himself in at 12 o'clock. So far, we have not heard from Mr. Simpson. As of now, Mr. Simpson is a fugitive. I'm paraphrasing. So his son is now the DA in LA. And his son had to make a statement because this new information is out there and it's gaining traction. Interesting juxtaposition if now you compare, right? So in the 90s, when the Menendez brothers earned a new trial, well, there was a mistrial. So they had their second trial. In the middle of their first mistrial and that second trial where they were convicted guilty, O.J. Simpson was acquitted. And when O.J. Simpson was acquitted, there became just a heap of pressure put upon the shoulders of the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, right? They had to get the Menendez brothers convicted. They had lost a series of high-profile cases, and O.J. was obviously the biggest one. And so there was a ton of pressure on them to get this conviction. Somehow they get what they called the abuse excuse, the sexual molestation allegations thrown out of court pretty much totally. So that the jury that's brought in for that new trial after the Menendez brothers mistrial doesn't hear any of that. Menendez bros get convicted. We know that story. 3 Mile Lyle is wilding out during all this, right? God, you watch that Netflix show. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Lyle Menendez is a real piece of work in that show. So back from humor to reality. Now this new stuff has been released through Peacock that there's possibly new evidence that would point in the direction that these guys actually did get molested by their parents, which could lead to their charges or their sentencing being reduced. And if you get it down to like manslaughter, they would probably be released right now, right? Well, the reason there's so much pressure mounting is because we talked about this yesterday. There is a ton of support behind these Menendez guys through like YouTubers and now TikTokers and now Kim Kardashian and the Innocence Project. People feel like they should be out of prison now, and that this evidence should be brought forth. So here's the deal. Now, where they were once feeling a lot of pressure to convict these guys, now they're feeling a lot of pressure. How much times have changed to take like a closer look at this and to see if this evidence is for real. The LA District Attorney said earlier today, I read that, hey, it's a moral obligation for us to look into this and to find out and determine if this is credible evidence and that if we have to look at this again. So like it started to move now. Like the ball is in play for something to change. And it's so interesting to me how, whether it's a podcast that's based on true crime, whether it's a story that a writer deep dives into a cold case on, whether it's a bunch of TikTokers who have seen a Peacock documentary or have seen a couple of things about the Menendez bros, right, that want to go ahead and put this back in the public eye. Like, there is always room for movements and journalism to make things happen, right? Just like Mike Vaccaro and the New York media now behind the Mets with Hawk Tua, this Latin pop star, Jose Iglesias, and OMG and Grimace, right? OMG and Grimace and Hawk Tua, they don't compare to Mike Vaccaro. He's actually like a really good journalist. Out of St. Bonaventure's, by the way, with Adrian Wojnarowski. But I digress. A lot going on today in sports. This is probably the best time of year. TCU and Houston play football tonight. Houston hasn't scored a touchdown in 8 quarters, which is just terrifying. If you're a Houston fan, like, I got good news. Like, basketball season is starting in like a month. So good for you, because you're going to need that. I don't know what's going to happen to your coach. Baylor fans, big game this weekend. If you want to deep dive on that, you should listen to Locked On Big 12, where I joined Cameron Stewart. And Cameron and I really dug in to exactly what went on leading up to this game and to what I think is going to go on. Cam, can I call you Cameron?
Yeah, as long as you name my podcast the right thing.
What did I say?
You Locked On Big 12 again.
Oh, Locked On Baylor. Locked On
Drake is
Baylor.
Locked On Big 12.
Drake Toll is Locked On Big 12. So Locked On Baylor. He's over there with the tantrum. I had to figure out what was going on.
You and Mosley both call it Locked On Big 12.
Oh, really? I could tell. That was like pent up frustration.
You and Mosley both call it that.
Locked On.
And you've both been like, you need to be different from Drake.
I've never said that.
No, you have, but it's not like a bad thing. You're just like, you need to go do your own thing, and then it becomes.
I have not.
I'm
Don't
hosting Drake's show.
lump me in with Mosley. I've not
Mosley
said
said
that.
it in a different way.
I've just said you need to be yourself.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is magic. All right, coming up, we're going to make you some money. Corey Dickman, All In Bets. The segment is something you have got to hear. One, because Corey is actually a very compelling entertainer, and two, because his picks are pretty damn good. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, coming up next.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
back on the Pete Sousa Show. Corey Dickman joining us live from Steamboat Springs in Colorado.
Woo! Pete, you know, nothing will stop me from doing this segment with you so we can help our viewers make some money, Pete. Oh, I do it for the people. Do it for the people.
So let's get the ledger out here. What did we do for the people last week, Corey?
You know, Pete, there were some calls by a certain host of this show that, Zach, do you have that clip queued up here real fast?
Honestly, Corey, I think you should just do NFL because you're so.
Should I just do NFL?
I think you're so good.
No, we
at
gotta
NFL.
do some
all
college.
right. But I really,
we gotta do some college.
Yeah, you're very well versed.
I'm very well versed.
Wow. Pete Sousa said Corey should not do college anymore. And then what happened? We went 3-0. Our boy Martin Van Buren, aka Michael Van Buren, you know, it may not have been everything the reason why they covered, but they covered against Texas. Okay. Mississippi State, if it hadn't been for some little boo-boos there, could have kept that as a closer game than what it was, right? Right before halftime, Texas gets that return for a phone. So whatever. So anyway, Mississippi State. And then Pete, you were hating on my Kansas State pick. I told you Avery Johnson wasn't going to take that game 2 weeks ago against BYU. He comes back and they laid it on Oklahoma State. So they covered 5.5. And then my UCLA Bruins yet again say, look, you're giving us 30,500 points. We're going to cover. And they covered against Oregon. And we were fine. We went 3-0. So what do you say, Pete?
Look, I got to give credit where credit is due. You were unblemished, and that was your coming out party for college football. And I'm 100% supportive of that. I just saw that you had done so well in NFL the week before. I was looking to capitalize. Sure,
and I hear you, and that makes a ton of sense, especially as we now talk about the NFL because we didn't have such a good week this past week, and it's changed how we're going to do some of the bets now. But just as we go over it, we had the Bills covering, or they were getting 2.5 points. They didn't even show up against the Ravens. Derrick Henry is still running for touchdowns against them, so that was not good. We missed on that, and the mortgage bet. We had the first half of it, but my Seahawks did not show up in Detroit. It really was never a game. They kind of hung around. Geno could have potentially got that within a way to cover the spread, but they didn't. So we missed that. And then the same game parlay with Washington, we were very close there too, but didn't quite hit it with Jaden. So, you know, it's okay. We went 0-3, all man up. So our stats right now, Pete, we're 3-3 in college, and we are 2-4 in the NFL. But we're going to switch this up in the NFL. So we're going to get people back on the track and get your more.
You have been. Look, I told you this. The same thing with when we get into becoming accountable for teasers, and you're trying to package 4 home runs. It's a tough way to go when you're trying to stack up a record over the course of a year, and you're trying to win money conservatively.
Yeah, we are trying to win money conservatively here, and we need to just be a little smarter with how we do it because we want our listeners to come away with some cash. So that's what we're going to play this a little bit straight so we can keep our records because it's unfair. You know, you put a same game parlay in there, that's like plus 500 or something. So, you know, those are just less likely to hit. So if you want to go play those, maybe use these selections and you can put those in parlays if you want, but we're just going to give you straight facts here. Try to keep your money as even as possible. Minus 110, 120, meaning, you know, you put 100 in, you get about 100 out. So that's what we're going to aim for here.
Well, let's see. All right. So what do we got?
All right. So college. Okay. The Missouri Tigers going to Texas A&M, the fighting Texas Aggies, as my friend Casey would say, over 48.5 points here, Pete. Missouri, they put up points. A&M, their defense is okay, right? The game against Notre Dame was close and things like that. But over 48.5, this is going to be a shootout. This is our only matchup this week in college football with 2 ranked teams playing each other. So number 9 versus
Missouri
25.
9, Texas A&M 25.
25. So Pete, over 48.5. That is not hard to do in today's college football, especially with the Missouri team that can put up some points. So you feel okay with that? You feel okay with that?
I do.
Okay, you like that. Okay. All right. Now,
Give me a little Kirk Cousins. You like that?
little Kurt. So Pete, when you're hot, right? You got to keep the hot hand. And like I said, my UCLA Bruins yet again are being disrespected in college. This is embarrassing. John Wooden, I get, was the college but basketball coach. He's rolling in his grave right now. The way the football team is being disrespected. Plus 27.5 on the road at Penn State. Do you know that this is a little trick? Okay. So UCLA 27.5 points. Okay. That's how many they're getting. Do you know what the over under is for this game?
You're going to tell me? I'm trying to find it now. I can't. Well, go ahead and tell me.
46.5.
Huh.
That you're telling me Penn State's going to win, 30 or 37 to 10, or it's like, it's got to be this very fine line for both of these things to be true. UCLA is going to hang with them, Pete, just like they did against Oregon and just like they did against the team prior to that I'm blanking on right now when they were getting all the points in the world. So give me UCLA Bruins plus 27.5.
All right, the only thing I'll say is that's 11 a.m. That's 11 a.m. for them, right? That's an early start.
What? And yeah, and all the Penn State people, they're not going to even be at the game yet, So UCLA, they're going to catch them by surprise, Pete. Don't worry. This Bruins team, they're built for the Big Ten. They're built for it. They're fine.
As far as they're built to cover, as far as you're concerned.
They're going to cover. Yeah, they're not going to win that game, but they're not going to lose by 27.5. All right, and then the final game, we're picking Cal, giving us the points against Miami, 10.5 points. This is a nighttime game, Pete, at Cal Berkeley, the dreaded Cal Berkeley home field advantage.
College game days there too.
College game days there. Did you know the quarterback for California, for Cal, the fighting Golden Bears? Aren't they the Golden Bears, Pete?
Golden Bears.
Fernando Mendoza, quarterback for Cal. Where did he grow up? Do you know?
Portland.
Miami, Florida.
Oh.
Fernando has witnessed this Miami team in his own backyard, and he's like, they are going to cover 10.5. And Pete, again, not my recommendation, but if you have a little extra money to spend, maybe you got a bonus this month, take Cal outright. Take them outright.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Miami had no business winning last week against Virginia Tech. They're going to be flying across the country for this night game against Fernando, and Cal covers 10.5. So that's how we're going to go 3-0 in college football.
Okay, I like that.
Where's my weak point right now? Are you're not on the UCLA, are you? You're scared?
Well, no, I actually like them all. I don't know enough about Texas A&M and that game to really weigh in on that. But honestly, I think I'm going to go with you on all your picks.
Okay, and we're going to go 3-0 again and keep rolling here. So, all right, go in with me. Everybody, let's go together. Yeah. Okay, NFL. Ready? So,
I'm ready.
Like I mentioned at the top,
I got it pulled up right here. What do you? Let's
pull it up right here. All right, so we're not going to do this game parlay again. If you want to go mess around with that on your own, hit us up in the comments, ask for some suggestions. But we're just going to give you the heavy hits right here. So, the New York Jets traveling to Minnesota. Okay, the Vikings. Pete, are people believing this Vikings team yet?
All right, first thing, I got to correct you just to be safe. The game is in London.
It's in London. You're right. This is a London game.
8:30 start in London.
You are correct. And you know what travels, Pete? Do you know what travels? Defense travels. Defense. Yes. Not Aaron Rodgers, not Garrett Wilson, who's having a terrible year. He's on my fantasy teams. That's why I know that. Defense travels, in Minnesota, they're going to get after him, Pete. And you know how old the Jets quarterback is? He's old. He's in his
41.
He's 41. He can't evade those guys, those edge rushers. They're coming for him. They made CJ Stroud look silly. They're going to come after the Jets, covering 2.5. Vikings minus 2.5.
Very good game, by the way, for one of those London games.
This is a really good game for a London game. Yeah, London must be sending Goodell some thingies there in the mail, maybe.
Totally. We usually send them like Tennessee and Miami
and Jacksonville, those things. So Minnesota covers minus 2.5. Okay. Then, of course, we always have to make this pick, which is fine. We got the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, we do.
Sunday night to Pittsburgh. This is like, I mean, Pete, if you were going to do the all-time iconic match, isn't this it?
Yes.
Cowboys and Steelers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially according to our brethren, Matt Mosley. He loves this.
Well, yeah, and of course Matt Mosley loves it, but he's not going to love this pick because the Steelers defense gets back on track, -2.5, again, winning by a field goal. Justin Fields, just take care of the ball, Justin. That's all Justin's got to do is take care of the ball. The Cowboys, come on, Pete, they're all over the place. I can't trust them. At Pittsburgh, -2.5. Give me the Steelers. Sorry,
right,
Matt. Sorry, Matt.
All right.
You feel shaky
I like
there.
that pick too. I actually do like that pick. I think the Cowboys, it's very possible they get exposed this week because the Giants stink.
The Giants stink. The Pittsburgh defense, Pete, is going to come after the Cowboys, and they don't have all these weapons. Like, this isn't the Cowboys spread, get everybody going. It's CeeDee Lamb or bust. And you can't tell me TJ Watt and the Steelers can't say, we're going to take out Lamb. What do you do after that? I mean, no idea. You're not going to run the ball against this defense. So and the Cowboys have a terrible rushing attack anyway. So -2.5, give me Steelers. And then we're still going to stay with the mortgage bet, Pete, because I have a mortgage. You have one. Zach, Cam, Mike. I don't know what Mike has in the back there, but he has something. And so we have to cover that. Again, though, the way we do it is we do the 2-team teaser. So the odds are still +100. Okay. So we're not going wild here, but we're getting some things in our favor.
But we are doing a teaser.
We're doing a teaser, 2-team teaser. We are doing it. We're going to keep that going, Pete. We're going to keep track of our mortgage wins. So we hit the mortgage the first week. We lost it last week. So we're going to make up for it here. Arizona traveling to San Francisco. How many points are they getting, Pete? Do you see it on there?
7.5.
7.5. We're going to even make that better. We're going to add 4.5 points to that, +12. Kyler Murray has got to be the MVP of a garbage time touchdown, right? If I was going to put the ball in the hands of any quarterback when the game doesn't matter anymore, just to give me a garbage time touchdown, Kyler Murray is that guy. And probably Marvin Harrison is the receiver of that. So +12, they're going to cover +12, Pete. This is a no-brainer. And then where am I at right now? Do you know? I told you, right? Where am I sitting? I'm in Colorado. We're in Colorado.
Springs, baby.
Steamboat Springs sponsored this segment right now. The city of Steamboat Springs, where sports betting is legal here in Colorado. You're wearing a Colorado T-shirt. We didn't even plan this. We didn't plan it. So the Denver Broncos. If I got to hear more of the news at night here with my in-laws and the sports guys talking about the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix and the yada yada. But I believe them. Give me the Broncos -2.5. We're going to add some points just in case Bo Nix has a little boo-boo. They're getting +2 here with our tees. So we have the Denver Broncos +2 against the Raiders, Pete.
I like that because the Raiders, although they surprised some people early in the season with that win against Baltimore, they feel like they're in free fall. I like the Raiders. I follow them. They're not. Yep. They got a bunch of guys injured. The Devontae Adams stuff is like really kind of out of control. Feels real clunky. That's a great pick. I like that one a lot.
I honestly, again, not putting this on the record, but if you wanted to get real wily here, I would take Denver -7.5. Like you could do an alt spread on here, and because you're right. If Devontae and Antonio Pierce, it's like if mom and dad are fighting, that the house isn't a pleasant place to be at.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and they were the two, I think, that really pushed last season, how they finished so strong, because those two were on the same page. Now that they're not, and I don't know if Max Crosby's playing in this game. He didn't play last week. I don't know if he's playing in this one. So I would love the Broncos here, but Pete, we're paying people's mortgage. So we're taking it real safe. So +2 in case there's an issue here with the win. So our teaser is Arizona +12. Pair that with the Broncos +2. Pay your mortgage. Your banker will be happy. Your spouse will be happy. Everyone will be happy.
Here's my only fear is that right now, and we're about to end this segment, so it's okay. But the screen is glitched, and you're what they call frozen, right?
Oh, okay.
Still handsome as ever, but you're frozen. Sure. and we can't have you cold this weekend. We need you hot. So we need these to hit. Okay.
They're gonna hit. Can you still hear me? Can you hear
Oh,
me?
here can hear you loud and
Okay,
clear.
good. Well, I hope I'm frozen in a good position, but these will hit. I'll be back in studio. We'll recap it and be back with some more selections for the all-in bets here with Corey, sponsored by the city of Steamboat Springs.
He's on fire. You're on fire this week. I love it. All right, Corey, thank you so much for the time and for blessing us with these picks. We look forward, as always, to holding you accountable.
Let's go UCLA.
All right, Bruins. All right, Corey. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network. Back after this.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Zach Burke bringing us back to the Pete Sousa Show, where we are now joined by the one and only Cam Stewart, host of Locked On Baylor.
Oh, that's right.
And he'll be over this afternoon with Matt Mosley, ESPN Central Texas.
Yeah, I don't usually have to on Fridays, but I do this week.
Because you don't have a football game.
Yeah.
How do you like that, not having a high school football game?
It's a good time of year to have the bye week for all of us. Like, it's just so rare to have just a Friday where I don't have to do anything. So
yeah,
I love it, and the timing works out perfectly because the Face Off NHL show comes out today. So
tell me about this show. You're excited about it.
I'm just it's one of those like behind the scenes.
Who's in charge of it?
Prime.
Okay.
Like, this is what's different from a lot of these other shows is the players nor the team, they don't have final say.
Okay.
So that's what I'm really looking into. Basically, they're following around a couple players during the playoffs. And I know you're not a big hockey guy, but you know hockey playoffs are really intense. And there's like 8 episodes, kind of a theme with each one. So it is like some hard knocks to it, some like the quarterback show, but without the final say from the players, which I think is really cool.
Okay.
So I'm into it. Yeah. And I think the NHL has needed something like this for a long time. We've had Hard Knocks for 25 years. You know, we've had NBA stuff. We've had a bunch of NFL, a little bit of MLB. I know they're starting to do more of that, but MLB and NHL have had a real problem marketing their stars. And so here we go.
Why have they not done something like this?
I don't know. The NHL is kind of a conservative league in a lot of ways in terms of like they don't love the idea of the touchdown dance very much. They like very buttoned up, good old boys. You know, they don't love showing a ton of personality for whatever reason.
What about Don Cherry?
Don Cherry?
Yeah.
There's a reason why he has been against the grain his whole career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, this is, we're talking about a guy who who dresses like iconic, but is very like flamboyant.
Yes, and has gotten himself into hot water before. He will.
Is he still on that Hockey Night show?
No, he was canceled a couple years ago.
Oh, he was canceled.
Canceled.
What did he do?
He had an issue with someone. I believe this was the issue. He took umbrage to someone not wearing poppies during
the Canada thing.
Yeah. Canada and British during Remembrance Day, Veterans Day for us.
What did he do?
And he was just like, he went on some sort of rant. He was on the show and he was like, "How would a good Canadian not be wearing a poppy today?" And he's just kind of an old school guy, and he would always, like, in the 80s and 90s when we were starting to see more European players come in, he would just not hold them to the same standard as Canadians. And because he'd be like, "Oh, they come in from Sweden. They're wearing the big old visor. They're wearing the big old pads. They're not going to fight anybody." And he just like went off against them, and French-speaking Canadians too. So it was never like real derision, but just kind of like
it was enough already.
Yeah. And it probably, the way he talked about it in the 80s probably wouldn't be talked about that way today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously not like ill will or anything, but he'd be like,
Well,
"Yeah, Forsberg coming in. He's got the big visor on, and Bertuzzi's trying to go at him. And of course, Forsberg not going to drop the gloves. I guess they don't do that in Sweden." Like, you know
so
what I
for
mean?
people
Like,
who don't know, who exactly was this guy?
so
'Cause I know he was a
yeah.
larger than life hockey
Oh, big
personality
time.
from Canada on Hockey Night in Canada. Right?
He is just a big time hockey lifer. So yeah, he was on Hockey Night in Canada for like 40 years. This thing happened like 2 years ago. He got kicked off the show. He's like 90 now. He used to coach the Bruins in the 70s, and he also played years and years in the minors. But he was like your classic hard-nosed coach who loved the goons and loved, like, perfect timing for him in the 70s. Grit, not even necessarily like a bunch of fighting, but gritty, tough, checking, dump and chase. Like, the teams he had with the Bruins were called the Lunch Pail AC, because they were just your hard-nosed construction workers, bring your lunch pail to work every day.
Were those teams good? Was that like Bobby Orr?
Yes. So they were really, really good at the beginning of the 70s when he was not the coach. 70 and 72, they won the cup.
And then the
and
Flyers
he became the
came
coach
along.
after 74 when they lost the Flyers in the final.
Broad Street Bullies.
And so, yes and no, in that they were still pretty good when he was there. They went to the finals twice, but he needed to kind of rework the team. Bobby Orr was really hurt at that point. They ended up trading him away in 76, which was his second year as the coach. And so he kind of reinvented them from like the best that money could buy in the league and this really skilled team to really just a play it in a bandbox, Goonie type team. He traded Phil Esposito, who at the time had the record for goals in the season, one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. He's a guy who just lived around.
Why did he trade him?
He traded him because he didn't play the style of hockey that Donnie wanted.
So he kind of.
So he trades.
He's kind of screwed up.
I mean, yes and no. He trades Esposito. Also, Bruins fans love Don Cherry.
Okay,
just absolutely love the guy. So he trades Esposito for Jean Rattel and Brad Park. Traded Esposito and Vadnais for Brad Park, who was the second best offensive defenseman of his era behind Bobby Orr, and John Rattel, Rat Rattel, baby, who would get down in the corners. Espo wasn't going to do that. And so they became this real hard-nosed team, and they eventually, in 78, I believe, 78 or 79, they set the record for most 20-goal scorers on a team. So they were spread out. They didn't have a 50-goal guy, but they had 8 or 9 20-goal guys on their team. And the problem was, Pete, could never beat Montreal. And that was the Bruins they basically went 40 years without beating Montreal in the playoffs. They lost them like 19 straight series or something.
Wow.
And this is a bit of a hockey lore for you, and why the main reason why the Bruins could never beat them, because back then they did not have uniform rink sizes. So the ice surface would be different at whatever the building was. Montreal had an Olympic size ice, bigger than anyone in the league. the Boston Garden had the smallest ice surface.
Hence
in
the
league.
bandbox.
And so, yes. And so that's these how these guys built their teams. Montreal.
It's almost
had
like a major league ballpark.
Correct. Had superior skaters all the time. And the Bruins played again, a hard-nosed, gritty style. And so they didn't need the best skaters. They
That
needed
is
checkers.
awesome that they had the
And-
dimensions like that. Now everybody's the same, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ballpark thing, I mean, the Red Sox ran into that years and years. They wanted these big hulking right-handed hitters who could knock the ball over the wall and over the monster,
Yeah.
310 feet from the plate. Only problem was 81 of your games every year were in someone else's
Yeah.
bandbox, And so the Bruins, when they would have to go up to Montreal, they could never win in the Forum in big games because Montreal had the skaters. So that's Don Cherry, man. He was a grinder. He was a real old-fashioned kind of coach. And so the Boston fans, of course, ate that shit up.
Yeah.
Ate it up, man. Taz O'Reilly and Chief John Wensink and Stan Jonathan. And Wensink, he's got blood dripping down his face, and he's challenging the entire North Stars bench. Hey, someone come get me. And no one gets him. Or 79 at Madison Square Garden when they win the game at the buzzer. Esposito actually misses a breakaway for the Rangers at the buzzer. The Bruins win, and the Rangers fans are like throwing shit at them, and here come the Bruins climbing over the boards and into the stands.
Yeah, that was
to
an
take
all-time
on these
moment, right?
fans. And Mike Milbury's beating this guy
Yep.
with his own shoe, and Taz has got a friggin' shirt over the guy's head. And that was the Lunch Pail AC, man. That was great.
Do you
Don
like Mike
Cherry.
Milbury?
Yeah.
So he was the coach for Boston. He was a
He did
GM
coach
for
the
a
Bruins
while,
at one
right?
point too. He was the GM of the Islanders.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
So he ran the Islanders, the ground. But yeah, he coached the Bruins to a final in 1990, and he was kind of the same way. He was a lot like Cherry as a player too. Like,
Yeah.
not a great skater, college player, which a lot of those guys didn't make the pros back then. He played Colgate. And he was not much of a skater, but big body, liked to check and liked to build his teams that way. And he's an okay analyst. He kind of got run off on the analysis thing. I don't know, but he's like,
What's he
kind
up
of a
to
Bruins
now?
homer. I don't know. To be honest with you, I think he lives in Florida. He does some spots with like local Boston sports talk during the season, but I don't think he used to do NBC's like intermission report pregame show. I love Don Cherry, man. It's gonna be a real sad day when he goes. He's like 90.
Does he do any stuff now? Like can you find him anywhere content wise?
I think his son was doing a podcast with him.
Yeah.
As just like a dad, just like tell your stories.
Yeah.
He played for Eddie Shore. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Who's Eddie Shore?
Eddie Shore was
Let's not get too far down the rabbit hole.
Well, I didn't want to.
Who's Eddie Shore?
Eddie Shore was one of the first great players in the NHL. He started for the Bruins in the 20s and 30s, and he became like this tyrannical owner of the Springfield Indians, which was an AHL team, minor league team.
In Massachusetts?
Yeah.
No way.
And like the stories about him were legendary. And Don Cherry played for him. And so you've got like he played for him. He coached Bobby Orr. Like he coached in the Stanley Cup final. So he's got all these stories from just decades. So I think that's what he does. I don't know if he's still doing it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna suck when he dies, because there's gonna be a ton of Canadians who are just gonna be like, good, racist, out of touch, like, and it's just I just don't buy into that. I don't think he's like that. But
yeah, was he racist?
I mean, if you want to go like way down to the definition, maybe you can find that, of like, oh, he says this stuff about Henrik Zetterberg because he's Swedish, but he wouldn't say that about some Canadian stiff, English speaking Canadian stiff. And he's from Ontario, and he hated the Canadiens, so he always had like something against Quebec and French speaking Canada.
And this is a guy doing national games,
right? Hockey Night in Canada, yeah. So
so people are like,
so people will say that, yeah. People will say that, and it's like everyone who meets him says he's the nicest guy.
How excited are you? So does the hockey regular season, is it started, or does it start tonight?
Starts today. There's some international games today. It's Prague, maybe. I'm wearing my shirt when the Bruins were in Prague. Bruins start on Tuesday.
How much does it mean to you, like the start of the season for the Bruins, and what does that do to you scheduling wise? Like, how do you consume?
I mean,
Because
thank
hockey's
God.
almost every night. It's got the rhythm of like a baseball season almost.
No, it's more like basketball.
Okay, but it's got that rhythm. It's got like
Like
there
3
is
times a week.
hockey. Yes, hockey, baseball, basketball. Obviously more so baseball, but it does have that rhythm. Like you just kind of stay with your team the whole season, and it's
Yes,
pretty
and
cool.
hockey always feels thick and fast at the beginning of the season because you're in football season.
Okay.
So scheduling wise, it's gonna be tough, man. So
How many do you watch all the games?
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, we know you watch them at Baylor basketball games.
Yes, that's got me in hot water before. Like the Bruins 2 years ago when they set the wins record, I had a normal 9 to 5 job. I probably watched like 75 of the 82 games. Like I watched so much.
How does it affect your relationship?
I mean, regular season, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And I think I said this yesterday. That's the only one that Grace kind of likes to watch. Like she'll watch some sports with me, but
if she wants to do something, if she has something important to do on a Thursday night and there's a big regular season Bruins game, how do you navigate that?
We make it work. I mean, I took her out.
We make it work?
I took her out for our
Aren't there 82 games?
I listen to me, Pete. Listen. I took her out for our anniversary last year.
We make it work.
And
you might need to change your tune.
It was a night they were playing the Flyers, which is, for me, that's a big game for me.
Yeah.
Philly sucks, but I love seeing the Bruins beat them. And I didn't watch. We went out. We went out to dinner.
Did you
like regular season? I can make it work. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? I don't need to watch every game.
All right.
It's more, and especially that thing 2 years ago was like I was home every night, so I was like, yeah, I want to watch the Bruins.
Yeah.
And that's in high school, like when the Bruins were really good, like making cup final runs. They won the cup when I was in 8th grade. Like I was watching every game, and I don't miss a playoff game. That's really tough for me. I was watching it on my phone when they got eliminated last year. We were at Grace's older sister's engagement party, and I was watching the Bruins. Yeah, so like I don't miss the playoff games.
It is. I'm jealous of you in this regard. It's
going to be tough, by the way, to fit it in during the. You see how busy I am these football nights. Like I was working till 10 p.m. last night, so I'm gonna have to do some maneuvering, record some stuff early so I can catch most of these games.
Did everything go okay for Rogue Media? By the way, football games last night. Must have, right?
I didn't have one.
Yeah, I know. I know. We have the arena had one.
Yeah,
that's good. I was thinking if there's a night that things will go haywire, tonight is the night. But so we haven't heard anything, so that's great. I love what we're doing with live sports. I think that's like just keep me out of it, but I think it's really. I think it's
one play-by-play guy we have.
I think it's really awesome that we're doing that.
Yeah, so I watch a lot of hockey.
Yeah, I'm jealous of you, and here's why. There are, maybe back when I did like sports information and PR, like I got to know the players so well in the off season, and you really do get excited for the team to gel, or let's see what these guys can do.
Mm-hmm.
When they're, I don't care what it is. When you have a knowledge of the cast, it makes it way more interesting.
Sure,
when you know about these people.
I mean, I'll find that even with high school football.
Totally.
I don't hang out with these kids. They're high school kids,
I do too.
Yeah,
every game I call, I get to know these guys, and I'm super interested. But usually, I'm not pulling for either or. You know what I mean? Like when you have a team you can get behind that you like. I mean, that's it's really cool. Like I too often now at this phase in my fandom, I just parachute in the postseason and really care. I'm doing it with the Phillies right now. It's true, dude. At this phase of my life, again, Villanova basketball is the one thing or the last thing that gives me agita. Like I watch it. And you know what? That's not true. The Phillies will do it this year because I'll ask myself the question, why am I so invested in this that I feel this way? Like why I'm depressed.
Yeah,
like I'm upset. I've been thinking all day about how they
hockey games a lot.
Yeah. So I
for whatever reason,
I really have again, and I do think it's not jaded because I still adore sports. I love them. They're a lifeline for me. But as I've gotten older and I've been around sports so much in my life, my fandom has been scaled back.
Mm-hmm.
A little.
I saw that happen with my dad.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I've seen him as pretty mellow sports fan my whole life, but
Yeah.
I know from hearing about it, he was just like me for a long time. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just part of growing up. I just haven't grown up yet.
No, I don't. Look, neither is Bill
Yeah.
Simmons. We talked about Simmons
Yeah,
yesterday.
I think I'm probably closer to that Bill than my Bill.
You know more about hockey than Bill Simmons does. There's no question.
Yes, although Simmons, yes, and he admits that. But sometimes he'll bring up the Bruins because he's like, and I actually really respect this. He's like, I watch them in the postseason mostly, and so I don't talk about them on my podcast. But like as a kid, I was so into the Bruins too, and he'll talk about like the '80s Bruins. I'm like, okay, so he did know his stuff, but he's just not trying to be like.
I watched the Flyers every night in the '80s, like Rick Tocchet. I mean, like Brian Propp, Pelly Lindbergh, who tragically died. Peter Zezel. And I love them. And when they lost to Edmonton in the 87 Stanley Cup, I remember going to my mom's room crying. I was
Hextall
like,
still won the Conn Smythe.
He did, which was ridiculous.
Happened this year, dude.
Huh? Yeah.
Why do you think you don't like that?
I just remember Hextall getting the trophy and crying.
Yeah.
And it was presented to him in the locker room after the game. It was a weird moment.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't see it that night. I saw it on video later because back then you didn't see shit. Like the game was on Channel 57 and they went off the air and that was it. You know?
Yeah, no post game.
No. And I just went to my bed and cried. They were winning in that game. Scott Mellenby scored the first goal and they were up 1-0. And I was like, wow, like they're going to freaking win because they came all the way back. They were down 2-0, then they were down 3-1, and they pushed it to 7 games. It was an amazing series. The loudest that the Spectrum ever got was when J.J. Daigneault, who was like a nobody on the Flyers, hit this shot from well beyond the blue line to tie it up in Game 6.
Dude, you can still buy like a vintage Daigneault jersey.
Really?
Like, you know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. Like you can still find those. Like, he's a cult hero.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing.
And I grew up in a time too where like the time that I was obviously a sports fan pretty early, but like when you start hitting that like junior high school, like that's when you start really, really getting into it. And that's when the Bruins became really good for the first time in a while. And so kids of my generation, that was a huge deal. Like you didn't miss Bruins games.
What happened when you guys got swept by Edmonton? I think maybe it was 88.
Yes.
It was the year out. Yeah.
88, they got swept by Edmonton. 90, they lost in 5.
And there was a delay in one of the games because like
power went out.
Yeah. And smoke
the old garden.
And it was really hot. So the air conditioning was off and smoke started to come up the ice.
Fog. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The power went out. They couldn't complete the game. They had to play it in Edmonton, and Edmonton won the cup on home ice. Yeah.
So that's what happened?
Yeah. That was the beginning of the end.
Power went out at the Garden.
Yep.
And they had to cancel it was before the game though, correct?
It was during the game. During the game. They Edmonton had just scored and they were like in the celebration. I think it was 3-3. And lights went out. Bizarre broadcast. Like it just goes black. And it's kind of like the earthquake thing, but without the bouncing, it just goes black. It's like whatever it was, CBS or NBC logo. And then some guy in the studio, like, we believe there's a power failure at the Boston Garden. And that's kind of how it went. Yeah.
Did they ever find out? Was anybody ever like answer? Did anybody answer for that? Or that was
just an old building.
Yeah.
Just an old building. I mean, they had problems with they had no AC in there. So anytime the Bruins would play late in the season, you had the fog issue and bad ice and rats everywhere. Yeah. And then that night the lights went out.
How cool.
It's in New England lore now. They remember that instead of losing the series.
2 p.m. Central Time. Cam, thanks so much. As we wrap it up here from the Alico building, we will be back on Monday. Make sure you check out Cam later today. ESPN Central Texas. He and Matt Mosley will be talking about. I wonder, what will you guys talk about today?
I had a lot of Baylor prep.
Yeah.
Baylor prep for tomorrow. I don't know. I guess we'll talk a little bit about the game last night, the NFL game.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be talking Bruins.
I don't think so.
We'll have weekend bets. We'll have some weekend bets, much like you do on your program that I'm on right now.
All right. We'll be back Monday. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Rogue Media Sports.